And now we move to the front court. Today we're ranking the top 10 small forwards in the game today, but as always, drop your list in the comment section and I'll get back to every single one. Now, over the 3 years of doing the rankings on this channel, the criteria has always remained the same. Over the last year or two of basketball, whether based on impact or your statistical output, what have you done for me? What kind of big moments or games or stretches have you had? And hey, if it's been that dominant, you will be ranked accordingly. But some honorable mentions. These are guys that just barely missed the list. Josh Hart at number 11. He was the first name off, which kind of shocked me. But I will say that if he comes and he plays exactly like he did this year, next year, they will make the NBA Finals because my Cavaliers aren't ready for the moment. Outside of that, you have guys like Trey Murphy, who does everything so well, and I have a soft spot for Trey Murphy. And then you have guys like Lauri Markkanen and Brandon Ingram, offensive guys, but I think it's safe to say that, well, last year was a down year, so they fell off the list. But at number 10 is an all-NBA level defender in Jaden McDaniels, a guy that always takes the toughest matchups every single night for a team that is a contender in a loaded Western Conference. He is a very key part to that Timberwolves roster. And heck, this past year, he took a jump offensively, averaging 12, shooting great from three, and overall, just adding more to his versatility on that side of the court. Point blank period, this team doesn't make the Western Conference Finals and upset as many teams as they have the last 2 years without Jaden McDaniels. There's a reason why he's talked so highly about from his teammates, but hey, I can see it. I will give him his flowers, and that's why he's at number 10. And number 9 is a guy who just averaged career highs across the board in every major statistical category. Deni Avdija of the Portland Trail Blazers just averaged 17 and 7, and like I mentioned, great numbers across the board. He plays like a mini Luka Doncic, and I hate to use that stereotype for a taller point forward kind of a build that's European, but that's just kind of the case with these European players. This is a guy that has great control over the game, and he just impacts the game in so many ways that don't always show up on the statistical sheet. But this is a guy that has great pace of play. He has great control of the game, like I mentioned. And for a Portland team that is kind of directionless, he is their building block. He is their foundational piece as he left his mark this season in a big-time way. They have a lot of good pieces, but Deni is their number one piece, and I can't wait to see if he can continue to progress for years to come, because this is a team that if they put everything together, they were a couple games away from the play-in last year. At number 8 is a guy that also averaged career highs across the board in Franz Wagner, 24 and 6 a game, just to highlight it all. But this is a guy that next to Paolo Banchero did everything they could on the league's worst offense last year. Again, they had so many injuries they had to deal with and get over. But still, with Franz and Paolo being as great as they were still able to lead this Magic team to a playoff appearance. But hey, when we talk about the playoffs, you are a lower seed in back-to-back years. You're not expected to win those series. However, Paolo has shown up against the Cavaliers and against Boston this past year. But where has Franz been? That is my big question about Franz going forward. And again, I understand situations have been difficult. But going into the future, especially in a wide-open Eastern Conference, I want to see Franz be more comfortable and more dominant in these big-time games late in the season and help out Paolo Banchero. Because if this team can be a league-average offense, they already have a great defense. But if they could be a league-average offense and if they can have a co-star step up on a nightly basis, cough, Franz Wagner, they can make a Indiana Pacers level run. But Franz needs to be that Robin to Paolo's Batman. But if he doesn't, they're just going to run into the same fate they've had the last couple years. Now let's talk about some veterans, and we'll start with the guy whose skill set is outdated, but the talent is far from it. DeMar DeRozan's still one of the best scorers in the game and closers that we have in the NBA today. And since his time in San Antonio, he's improved as a defender, as a facilitator, and as we saw this past year, he doesn't necessarily need to only score to impact their winning, right? Now, this is a team that is stuck in purgatory. I don't think they make the playoffs next year, but this is a guy, DeMar DeRozan, that is still incredibly talented despite his age. The only knock that you can really say about DeMar DeRozan is that he doesn't necessarily fit the modern style of play, which is 5 out and shoot 100 threes a game. But the talent is still there with DeMar DeRozan, and I want to give him his flowers, so he's at number 7 still. Now, this one shocked me the most, but Jimmy Butler is at number 6. 17 and 5 a game, but I bring up his numbers strictly for the fact that his impact goes well beyond the numbers. This is a guy that in the middle of last season got traded and he had to adapt to a whole new system, a whole new group of guys, and a whole new style of play. But after being traded, he still helped the Warriors to make a playoff run. But when we got to the playoffs is what left a sour taste in my mouth going forward, and it's probably why he's down here at number 6. We didn't get that flip switched once Steph went down with an injury, because you can make an argument that if Steph didn't get hurt, they make the Western Conference Finals. But when Steph went down, we were all expecting Jimmy Butler to be that playoff Jimmy that we saw for so many years in Miami and even in years prior with Chicago to a lesser degree. We just didn't get to see that version, that flip switch, so to speak, of Jimmy Butler. So I just don't know if that's in him anymore. I hope to see that this year. I hope he can take a big step up and the Warriors make a big-time run. But ultimately, if he's just going to be a player that is going to average 17 and 5 and bring great defense, he's just no longer in the top 5. Now, the second best player on your reigning, defending NBA champions, the Oklahoma City Thunder, is J-Dub. It's Jalen Williams, a guy that last year averaged 22 and 5, career highs across the board, and hey, he was the Western Conference Finals MVP. I will say this, there's a lot of old guys on this small forward list, but at this pace, if Jalen Williams continues to progress and they continue to win, he's going to be the guy to dominate the number 1 spot on this list for years to come once a lot of these old guys retire at the top of the list. But hey, who knows? It's going to be him and Cooper Flagg if everything works out there in Dallas. Now at number 5 is Jaylen Brown, a guy that, let's just get it out the way. Last year was a down year, and I think we can all agree on that. But 2 years ago, he did everything Jalen Williams did, but to a higher degree. On the most dominant team in the NBA, check. On the NBA champions, check. Eastern Conference Finals MVP, check. But he also won the Finals MVP. So despite being a Robin in both J-Dub and Jaylen Brown's case, Jaylen Brown was able to be the better player, so to speak, according to the voters, in the biggest stage, which is the NBA Finals. Jaylen Brown is still an all-NBA level talent, but with no Tatum going in next year, there's going to be an even bigger spotlight on Jaylen Brown. So I'm saying this. He's still at number 5 because he has accomplished the highest of highs at this NBA level, but going into next year, he gets to be Batman for the first time in a long time, maybe ever in his NBA career. So I want to see a big jump. I want to see him keep the Boston Celtics in the mix and be a top 6 seed. If he can do that, he will rise on these rankings next year. But again, Jaylen Brown is still a talented player. Don't let the media and their jokes blind you on how talented that this guy still truly is. Now, moving into the top 3, I feel like we're stuck in 2014 all over again, as Kawhi Leonard is at number 3. Despite only playing 37 games last year in the regular season, it was just finally good to see Kawhi Leonard back on the court in a decent amount without facing any injuries. Now, this is a guy that changed his training program, so he should be, his body should be ready for deeper and more games going into next season and hopefully the postseason regarding any injuries. This roster is the oldest in the league. They have a lot of talent, a lot of veteranship, but they will only go as far as Kawhi Leonard takes them. And last year, going into the playoffs, they won like 17 of 18 games in March or something like that. This team has the potential to be a sneaky Western Conference dark horse as far as winning the conference. But again, they will only go as far as the claw takes them. So I'm excited to see if he can stay healthy for 1, which I hope he can, but for 2, how far he can take them. And number 2 is a guy that was traded for the 4th time in his NBA career, Kevin Durant, the Durantula, the Slim Reaper. This guy has so many great nicknames. But hey, he was traded yet again, and now he goes to H-Town. And this move just makes a lot of sense because when you think of Kevin Durant, what do you think of? Well, you think of maybe the best go-to scorer in NBA history and a guy that has been a great leader throughout his entire career despite his departures. So he goes to Houston where he can do both of those to a very high degree. It's a younger roster despite Fred VanVleet. Go there, be a great leader to a lot of these young guys like Amen Thompson, but just be their closer, be their go-to scorer, and they have everything else around him, like the defense, like the coaching, where he can only focus on those 2 things, and I think that is why this team has the potential to be a great team going forward, especially this upcoming year. Kevin Durant's still one of the best scorers in the game today, and I think this role for him is perfect, and I think it was a perfect move. There's so many perfect things I could say about Kevin Durant, but hey, the pressure's on, KD. It's time to live up to it yet again. Now, despite being 4,032 years old, the king still reigns supreme. He rises back up to the top, passing Kevin Durant, and he gains his #1 spot back. This is the guy that showed life last year, whether before the addition or after the addition of Luka Doncic. This is the guy in LeBron James that you can tell is motivated. He wants to get another ring, or at least be in a competitive spot before he hangs it up on his legendary career. This is the guy that got his coach last year. Again, they dominated, but now he also got one of his favorite players in the league in Luka Doncic. They had a great second half of the season last year. They were a top 3 seed in the West, though they didn't have the playoff success. LeBron still had a great season. Again, being 4,000 years old, giving you 24, 8, and 8 is tremendous. Especially when, again, we count into the fact that he led his team to a top 3 seed in a loaded conference. I will say this, whether if you're a fan of LeBron James, whether if you think he's the GOAT or the worst of all time, just acknowledge the greatness that is in front of you. And this is the guy, LeBron James, that it may be his last season. So if it is, just, I guess, take in every single moment that you can, because it's not often we get a player that can even push Jordan to be the greatest of all time. So again, whether if you love him, you hate him, you don't think he's in that conversation or not, just give him his rightful respect and acknowledge as much as you can about the king, because this may be his last year. But here is the tale of the tape. LeBron, Kevin Durant, Kawhi, I feel like we're in 2014 all over again. They are the top 3. Jaylen Brown at 4, Jalen Williams at 5. I know I mixed those numbers up a lot in the video, but hey, here is the true numbers. Now, when we go to the tail end of the list, you have a lot of veterans mixed with a lot of young guys. Jimmy Butler, DeMar DeRozan at the top of that list. Then you have Franz, Denny, and Jaden McDaniels all making their marks on the NBA last year. And hey, they're looking to keep their spot for years to come. So I'm looking for some progression in there and those guys. But that's going to do it, man. Leave your list in the comment section below, and I'm getting back to every single one.